What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics. And now we're going to pick up with Excalibur once again. But this time, we're going to cover a story called The Prometheum Exchange. This is a three-part story arc where we actually see Excalibur working alongside with the West Coast Avengers to stop Dr.Doom from doing something crazy and wild with Limbo. And so getting into the opening pages for today's video, we actually pick up with Excalibur trying their best to have a normal morning. Now, as we all know, being a superhero, you're not going to have that many days where it's going to be normal. Now, I want to shift our focus over to Kitty Pryde. And here's the reason why. So Kitty Pryde is still trying to learn how to regain control of her power again. Because remember, back in the Mutant Massacre, she was severely injured. With that injury, she lost control of her power. She was always in this phasing form. Now, thankfully to Dr. Doom, he was able to help her, but the problem is she does not have full control of her power again yet. She has to really focus to make sure that she does not phase through walls and stuff, or while she's holding something, they don't phase through her. Now, while she's trying to do that, you also have Megan trying her best to make her first pancakes ever. And unfortunately, they don't go that well, but hey, at least she is trying. Now, after that, you did have our heroes kind of make fun of Megan. And the reason why, because Megan apparently answered the phone earlier and she took a message for Kitty Pryde. The message came from Dr. Doom. Now, for our heroes, they're kind of like, why in the world would Dr. Doom call here for Kitty Pryde? Like, yes, he did save her life a while back, but come on now. It's Dr. Doom. There's no way he would just call to leave a message. And so they begin to make fun of her until the doorbell rings. And you have Megan go to the door, she opens it, and Dr. Doom is there. And they're kind of like, oh my God, she was not lying. Dr. Doom really did call for Kitty Pryde. Now, you do have Dr. Doom explain why he is there for. He says, listen, I need to go to Limbo to get a special kind of metal. This metal is called Prometheum. Now, this kind of metal will have the ability to give free energy to the rest of the world. And it sounds amazing. The problem is, it's Dr. Doom trying to achieve that goal. And so for our heroes, they truly can't believe that Dr. Doom is going to try to give the entire world free energy. Like, it makes no sense at all. Now, the reason why he needs Kitty Pryde's help because he cannot access Limbo so easily, but also because around this time in Marvel Comics, Kitty Pryde was holding on to the Soul Sword. Now, the Soul Sword did belong to Magic, but the problem was at the end of Inferno, she was turned back into a child, and the Soul Sword was given over to Kitty Pryde. And so now Kitty holds on to it. And so for Dr. Doom, he said, the only way for me to get in Limbo is if you cut open a way for us to get into Limbo. Now, again, our heroes cannot believe that Dr. Doom is trying to help out the entire world. But you have Rachel Summers being able to read the mind of Dr. Doom. And she's kind of like, yeah, he's serious. Like, he really does want to help out the rest of the world by trying to get the world free energy. So maybe we should allow Kitty Pryde to help out. Now, for our heroes, they have many different ways to actually get into Limbo. Now, the first route is going to be used by Dr. Doom and Kitty Pryde. Dr. Doom is going to try his best to weaken the barrier between Limbo and Earth's reality. And once the barrier is weakened, Kitty Pryde can then use her sword to cut the barrier down to allow Doom and her to actually go through it. Now, the rest of Excalibur, they're going to use a small device known as Widget. Now, when it comes to Widget, we're still learning more about this character, but he does have the ability to open up portals to go into other realities or other dimensions. And so with Widget, the rest of the team going to use Widget as a way to get into Limbo. Now, before they leave, Alistair Stewart arrives. Now, we have talked about this character before. Alistair Stewart works for an organization known as WHO, which stands for Weird Happening Organization, where they basically go around the world to investigate weird things happening around the world. Now, this man has a huge crush on Rachel Summers, but also he's a close friend to the rest of the team as well. And he came there for some breakfast, but unfortunately, he sees everybody leaving to go to Limbo while he gets stuck behind to watch the lighthouse. Except right after they all leave, we then see a lady in the water very upset with what Excalibur just did. And so now her goal is to find other defenders to help protect England. Now, we already knew when it came to Dr. Doom, this man has to be up to something. So when it comes to Kitty Pryde and Dr. Doom, they're on their own at first in Limbo. And they're walking around, except while doing that, they are then attacked by some demons. Now, unfortunately, Kitty Pryde's not really able to take out the demons, but Dr. Doom is. And matter of fact, you have Dr. Doom being able to grab a soul sword from Kitty Pryde and use the sword against the demons. Now remember, if you are holding on to the soul sword, technically you are the ruler of Limbo. And so right now, Dr. Doom is kind of acting like the actual ruler of Limbo. And so you have him walking around just killing off demons left and right. Now, once the demons are gone, Kitty Pryde wants the sword back, but he's not trying to give it back to her. And the reason why? Because Dr. Doom just needed her to get the sword out of the boulder it was stuck in and then use the sword as a way to open up Limbo, to get him into Limbo. And so now because he's in Limbo, he no longer needs Kitty Pryde, and he also has a soul sword now. And so you have Kitty Pryde and Lockheed tried their best to fight against Dr. Doom, but it's doomed. They're easily defeated by him. But luckily for her, the rest of Excalibur arrives. Now for Kitty Pryde, she does feel like she has been played, and technically she has been played. But Dr. Doom does plan on using the Prometheum metal as a way to give the world free energy, except Latveria is going to be first, and other countries are going to pay a lot of money to just get their hands on this kind of energy. And so yes, he's trying to help the world out, but at the same time, he wants the world to depend on him. And of course, that's the usual Dr. Doom move right there. But now we jump back over to Earth, and when we do, we pick up with the West Coast Avengers. You have Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Iron Man, Tigra, and Wonder Man. Now all 5 characters, they're just chilling, minding their business until they're confronted by the Lady of the Lake. Now the Lady of the Lake is actually a very interesting character, but unfortunately I'm not going to sit down and try to explain her origin because honestly, that's a whole other video right there, and really it's a cool origin. But if she does appear in front of you, it's basically meaning that there's grave danger coming for England. And right now, she's telling West Coast Avengers like, yeah, there's grave danger coming for England. And the reason why, because Excalibur is helping out Dr. Doom. And so you have the West Coast Avengers say, all right, we gotta go. If Excalibur is helping out Dr. Doom in a bad way, it'll be bad for the rest of the world as well. Now the rest of the first chapter is really more of our heroes trying their best to fight against Dr. Doom. But one by one, they're getting defeated by him. Now, by the end of the battle, it does all come down to Captain Britain trying his best on his own to take down Dr. Doom. And he truly does believe that he should be able to take Doom down. The problem is though, Doom is not alone because remember, he's holding on to the soul sword. And with him holding on to the soul sword, that means that technically he's the ruler of this realm. And so the demons are now on his side. And matter of fact, he told the demons to look like different Marvel characters like the X-Men or Fantastic Four or the Avengers, and the list goes on. But right now, Dr. Doom does have an army to use against Captain Britain. But by the time we get into the second chapter, we actually see the demons being able to defeat Captain Britain. And so now the entire Excalibur team has been defeated. And the question is right now, what comes next for our heroes? Because right now it seems Dr. Doom might get what he wants to actually achieve. Now, getting back over to Alistair Stewart, he realized that different parts of the ground around him are beginning to disappear into the portal that Dr. Doom and Kitty Pryde had opened up earlier. Now, that is also when you have the West Coast Avengers arrive alongside with the Lady of the Lake. Now, when they both arrive there, we are then informed that apparently the portal that Dr. Doom has opened up was only one of 5. The other 4 are also surrounding Great Britain as well. And here comes the big problem. You see, for Dr. Doom to be able to get his hands on his special kind of metal, well, he has to get rid of Limbo completely. But here comes the big problem though. The portals that he had opened up, they are connected to Limbo. And so if Limbo goes away, Great Britain is going to fall into those portals to replace Limbo. And so that is why the Lady of the Lake is here, because she realized that Great Britain is on the verge of disappearing into Limbo thanks to Dr. Doom. And so you do have the West Coast Avengers going to Limbo to help out Excalibur to take down Dr. Doom. Now, once you do have the West Coast Avengers being able to find Excalibur in Limbo, you do have most characters on both teams being able to work together. And the reason why I say most characters on both teams is because, well, when Wonder Man goes out of his way to help out Captain Britain, well, Captain Britain thinks that Wonder Man is a demon because, like we saw earlier, most of the demons in Limbo were turned to different characters in Marvel Comics. And so to him, he thought Wonder Man was just another demon. And it did take a while until the Phoenix was able to stop both men from fighting against each other. But after that, you didn't have the Scarlet Witch being able to tell everyone that if they're going to stop Dr. Doom, they're going to have to split up into 5 different teams. And so on each team, you're going to have 1 member from Excalibur and 1 from the West Coast Avengers. 5 different teams to close 5 different portals, and they go their separate ways. Now, once our heroes do arrive at each of the portals, they are then confronted by demons who are again looking like different characters from Marvel Comics. Now, these demons are not really a challenge for our heroes. Now, yes, these demons may have the powers of the characters that they are pretending to be, but they're still not as powerful as the original. And so our heroes are able to overcome all the different obstacles that has been placed in front of them. All 5 teams were very successful in their goals. But now we have to jump back over to Dr. Doom. Now, Dr. Doom is at the very center of Limbo, and he does know that what Excalibur is trying to do. But for him, it doesn't even bother him because his plan is still going to work. But then he's confronted by a demon who apparently knows Dr. Doom back when they both were on Earth. Now, we have no idea who this demon is yet, but he's kind of like, hey, Dr. Doom, I came here to get rid of you, to save the world in this world from the likes of you. Now, for Dr. Doom, he does not care who this demon is. He literally walks away to continue on with his plan. And that does upset the demon a lot. But for Dr. Doom, he said, listen, the only thing I have to do now is to stab the heart of Limbo. And the demon's kind of like, wait, the heart of Limbo? And we actually do see the heart of Limbo, which most likely gives this reality life. Except when Excalibur arrives, they're hoping that they'll be able to actually stop him. Except when they do arrive, Dr. Doom is able to stab the sword into the heart of Limbo. But as we dive into the 3rd and final chapter of this book, we actually do pick up with Excalibur being able to get there just in time to stop Dr. Doom from completely stabbing the heart of Limbo. Really, you have the Phoenix being able to stop the sword right in place. Now, here's the thing, if someone is able to take her out, the sword would then continue to go into the heart of Limbo. Now, you do have our heroes begin to fight against more demons who are again pretending to be other characters in the world of Marvel Comics. Now, Dr. Doom knows that, hey, if I'm able to get rid of the Phoenix, then the sword will continue to stab the heart. And so he does try his best to take her out. But then he's stopped by the demon we saw earlier. And this is where we learn who this demon truly is. You see, we do learn the demon's name is actually Darkoth. Now, Darkoth first appeared back in Fantastic Four number 142. Now, back in that book right there, he was going by his real name, Desmond Pitt, when he was just a regular human. So how in the world did Desmond get changed into Darkoth? Let me explain. So when it came to Desmond back then, he was close friends with Ben Grimm, better known as The Thing. They were both pilots. Now, after a while, Desmond did retire, but he did rejoin the NASA program. But while being there, he realized that there were a lot of spies that came from Latveria. And so to Desmond, he felt like he might find a way to hopefully bring them down. Unfortunately, he was caught and brought over to Dr. Doom. And Doom began to do some experiments on Desmond by using a special kind of metal. And we already know what that metal is. Promethium. Now, back then, Doom had no idea what metal he was actually using. He was still learning more about it, but he was able to give Desmond a brand new body that was covered in that metal. And he was also able to control the mind of Desmond, making him believe that he was some kind of creature known as Darkoth who was working for Dr. Doom. Now, it did lead to the point where Darkoth had supposedly died, but he was actually reborn back in Limbo. And the reason why? Because again, his body was covered in promethium, and that metal came from Limbo. And so that metal tried its best to go back to Limbo, which it did, but of course it was now covering his body. And so when it came back to Limbo, he was able to come back to life, but he was stuck there. But he knew sooner or later Dr. Doom would come back to this reality to try to get more of that special kind of metal. And so he waited and waited for the right moment to get revenge against Dr. Doom. Now, while you have the two characters fighting against each other, you did have our two characters knock out Rachel Summers. Now, with her being knocked out, that means she no longer has control over the Soul Sword, and the Soul Sword continues to go deeper into the heart of Limbo. And with that happening, that means the end of Limbo has finally arrived. And so for Dr. Doom, he's going to get what he wanted, a huge chunk of promethium for his own personal gain. Now, he does realize that there is a portal to take him back to Earth, and he does take it. But here's the problem though, everything in Limbo is dying, and with that happening, that means our heroes can possibly die alongside with Limbo. Now, once you have Dr. Doom leave, he does leave behind the Soul Sword, but you have Darkoth being able to pick up the sword. Now, once he does that, you then have Sim arrive. Now, Sim is a character that we had talked about before, a dude who always wants to rule over Limbo, especially when you had magic in charge of the actual place. Either way, he's right now telling Darkoth to hand over the sword, and Darkoth says, no, I'm going to keep the sword, but also deal with you. Now, he does eat Sim, but we already know that Sim will be back down the road once again to cause more problems for any future heroes when it involves Limbo. Now, the rest of the book for me personally does seem like the ending was a tad bit rushed. I feel like there's going to be an alternate ending, but unfortunately, we got this ending. Now, with that being said, we actually do see our heroes realize that everything is going to die when it comes to Limbo, and some of it is also being turned into promethium, the metal that Dr. Doom wanted so badly. And so it does seem like to our heroes that everything might come to an end. But let's not forget that right now the Soul Sword is with Darkoth. And with him being able to hold a Soul Sword, he's technically the ruler of the place. Now, here's the thing. He wants to die. He's thinking about going ahead and killing himself with the Soul Sword. But you didn't have Megan being able to stop him because she is an empath and she's able to understand what he's actually feeling, what he is going through. And she tells him like, hey, don't kill yourself just yet because honestly, you might have a purpose in life down the road. And that purpose could be a great thing for someone else down the road or even for yourself. And so because of that, he is able to pick up the Soul Sword to now become the only survivor of Other Place, better known as Limbo. Now, the rest of Limbo is technically gone, and you didn't have Darkoth send our heroes back to Earth. And the book does kind of end on that note, leaving us wondering what is Darkoth going to do in that realm that technically no longer exists, with Dr. Doom being able to get the medal that he truly wanted. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.